To all the evangelical Christians out there, I'm talking to you. This choice that you've just made, like every choice, this choice has consequences. And I'm not sure you've fully thought through what those consequences are going to be. You can't claim to have values. You can't claim to have moral superiority. You can't really claim to have any affiliation with God when you make the choice that you just made. I've heard a lot of people in the church say things like, well, I'm not choosing him, I'm choosing what he's going to do. Here's the thing. You don't get to separate the two. And this isn't the first time you've made this choice. The first time, you could write it off. You could say, it was a mistake. This time, you know full well what you're doing. You've chosen money over morality. You've chosen to profit over people. So now, we all see what you love. We all see who you love. And one thing is very clear. It's not God. So when your pious foothold on faith is eroded and people start to leave and they see you for what you are, I just want you to know this is the choice that made that happen.
Mr. Trump, I ask you as a supporter and a voter, how in the hell is having Canada and Greenland and renaming the Gulf of America going to save me money on my grocery bill and my taxes?
It's getting weird in DC right now. The camouflage boots, they're everywhere. The Cybertrucks are multiplying. I knew I spotted some out-of-towners because there was a middle-aged woman sitting on her own suitcase yelling at her husband. I saw another man with dirt all over his boots knocking on the window of my apartment building, yelling at his friends to let him in. Something tells me Decades is gonna be busy tonight. I also overheard someone complaining about how my favorite place uses a QR code to let you order instead of a waiter. It's getting spooky. And because these people aren't used to being in a city, they make their presence so known. They think they're the only ones existing. They don't understand that when they're walking with their entire family, 6 people across on the sidewalk, that it takes up too much space and no one can get by.
I voted for Trump and
We see you out of towners.
Yeah, I do. I think I am better than you in every way that there is to be. I think I'm smarter than you. I think I'm more empathetic than you. I think I can make judgment calls better than you. I think I can not only do research better than you, I can interpret that research better than you. I think I'm far less likely than you are to be tricked by a Nigerian trying to send me money. The most obvious con man came out and started conning people, and you fell for the con immediately. You didn't even check the depth of the pool before you jumped in. You were just cannonballs away. And now as we go through the next 4 years of whatever the this is, and the prices of gas doesn't go down and the price of eggs doesn't go down, and you start losing your house and your job isn't doing so well and you can't figure out why, well, and because you lack the ability to connect action with reaction, you have no idea why the economy looks the way it does and why it's going to look the way it's going to look in 4 years. Because we tried to tell you and you didn't listen because you think you're smarter than everyone else, but you're not. And it does not matter what metric you try to measure the two of us up against. I will always be better than you because I did not vote for it and you did. And you can never undo that.
I'm not MAGA, please don't scroll. I've got a moral compass and a soul. At the new property, I need some landscaping work, so I got a couple bids. They quoted me between $50 and $150. And then I looked into their companies on social media and found out that the owners were Trump supporters. So I said no. I'm in predominantly a black neighborhood, and everyone here has been so welcoming, and there's Harris wall signs as far as the eye can see. And one of my neighbors does landscaping. He also gave me a bid, and he said $100. And I said, you know what? I see that Harris wall sign over there. I'm going to pay you $300. Boycott all MAGA, no matter how big or small, and support those that showed that they voted with conscience, that have a moral compass and a soul. This black man, this small business owner, this Harris supporter, knew that I was a Harris supporter, offered me a discount because I have a moral compass and a soul. I gave him an increase instead.
Fascist countries ban websites. Fascist countries ban apps and websites under the guise of threats to national security, when every other country knows it's about suppressing the free speech of its citizens. If the government believes that a single app could quote from the hearing on the 10th, skew the perspective of American citizens to be anti-American, maybe the real problem is that American citizens are already in such a state of political unrest and unhappiness that our government is scared a single foreign influence could tip the scale and have it all be over. Don't you think that by taking away the, and I quote, key communications channel of Americans, it's gonna make those 170 million Americans a little more anti-American? Maybe Congress knows and understands that. Maybe the government knows that the backlash it will receive from banning TikTok does not outweigh the threats that come with its existence. Not in a matter of national security, but in a matter of being the most popular news and media outlet that the government cannot control, like American-owned broadcasting networks and publications. Maybe, if this was actually a national security concern, the government would be banning all Chinese-developed apps, like Shein and Temu, that collect the exact same amount of data as TikTok. Because maybe it knows TikTok is something special. You can't politically organize on Temu. If TikTok goes dark, the government deliberately and knowingly took away your free speech. Do not accept national security for an answer, ever.
Hey, good people. Listen up. I want to help prepare people for what is coming next week. So if you're feeling nervous, anxious, afraid, listen in. This may help you prepare your heart and mind for what's about to happen. Okay? First of all, Donald Trump will be inaugurated on Monday, January 20th, this coming Monday. It's happening. Like it or not, we're there. Okay? Next, I sincerely doubt that Donald Trump will recite the oath of office verbatim. He will either leave parts of it out or change parts of it altogether. It will be his first signal in his second term to Americans that he doesn't give a shit. He believes his power comes from him and him alone, not the Constitution and not the people. Okay? Next, executive orders. Donald Trump will sign more executive orders next week than most presidents sign in one 4-year term. Many members of his team are describing what's about to happen as shock and awe. Steve Bannon has described what's coming as days of thunder. Okay? If you want to understand what's coming in these executive orders, they are going to touch on every aspect of American life. They're going to touch on immigration. They're going to touch on LGBTQ rights. They're going to touch on voting rights. They're going to touch on environmental regulations. They're going to touch on everything. And it will be a wake-up call for probably a pretty good percentage of people that voted for him, that maybe the things they thought were going to be positive aren't going to be so positive. Okay? If you want to understand what's coming, you do need to read Project 2025. You guys remember how everyone was saying, oh, Project 2025, that's not Donald Trump's. He disavowed it, all that. You're about to find out, oh, Project 2025 is very literally the plan. It is very literally a roadmap. So I highly suggest downloading the PDF, sending it to Staples, because it's like over 900 pages long, and having them print it off and putting it in a binder. You're going to need it. You are going to need it. Project 2025 is the plan. Okay? And what's about to happen, it's very important to understand how executive orders work. Okay? Donald Trump, with the stroke of a pen, can create a situation and a legal battle that goes on for years. He is going to flood the system next week. He is going to sign so many executive orders that the Democratic Party, legislators at the federal and state level, as well as organizations like the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, they won't know where to begin. There will be so much to fight that they have to prioritize where to allocate their resources. A lot of fights that need to be fought will have to be put on the back burner while they focus on the things that they see as being most immediately important. Okay, but Donald Trump and his team are going to absolutely flood the system with executive orders next week. It is going to leave people's heads spinning. Okay? We are in this together, like it or not. I'm here. I didn't want to be in this mess. I voted for Harris. And a lot of people who voted for Trump are going to wish they voted for Harris real quick. So look, guys, get ready. Get ready. Okay? Get your heart ready. Get your mind ready. It is going to be not a lot of fun. Okay? But this country has survived a lot. We will get past this. But again, it's not going to be a lot of fun.
Outside now. What's your reaction to that?
So we're not going to get to see it in person then. Is that correct?
That's right.
Well, I don't like it. I mean, we came all the way from Washington, from Oklahoma, and now we're not going to get to see it. We might as well stay home and watch it on TV.
It sucks.
Let me rephrase that.
It's not good.
Yeah, it's actually something that we've been looking forward to for historical purposes, and being a part of it, that's once in a lifetime.
Absolutely.
We made all the plans, all the arrangements to come up and be a part of this event. And all of a sudden to hear that it's being moved indoors,
we're prepared for the weather. It's not a problem.
It's kind of like a bummer.
It is, yeah. It's not
Building or hurt nobody. And we have farms and
about the last 4 years, because what we're scared about is not the same. Here's the difference. What you were scared of isn't actually happening. You were scared of kids being taught gender in elementary school. That's not happening. You're scared of men going into women's restrooms. That's not happening. You're scared of men taking over women's sports. That's not happening. The Olympics banned that. You're scared that illegal immigrants are coming here to us when there has been literal zero evidence other than a few bad people of that happening. They commit less than 1% of crime in the United States, and the crime rate is the lowest it's ever been. There's actual evidence that these things are not taking place, but they know you will believe it. That is called fear-mongering, and it is used to brainwash people. You want to know what we're scared of? We're scared of the fact that women have, because of the bans that were put in place. Women who wanted to be mothers have died. We're scared that you just handed the United States to the most powerful billionaires in the country with a Republican Senate and House, that they can do whatever the hell they want to with us. And you have no idea what you just did. You literally just handed the country to billionaires who do not give a shit about you and have not one policy in place that's going to make your life better. And if you read the policies before you voted, you would know that. Because while we were all scared and are still scared about money and rent and grocery prices, most of us people who understand how the economy works know who to blame for that. You do not blame a presidential administration for the way prices have been the last 4 years. You don't blame Biden, and you wouldn't blame Trump either, because neither one of them are in control of that. So while yes, being scared about prices is incredibly valid, because we all were, it's important to blame the right people, because that's the only way to fix this. And the only way to fix this is to stop corporations. So you have to understand, read my lips, the President of the United States, and no administration, left or right, sets food prices or rent prices. What you're scared of is valid, and we all feel that way, but you're blaming the wrong person because of lack of education on the economy. So no, we are not scared about the same things. You were scared about things you were being actively lied to that you could have just researched and found out it wasn't true. And we're scared about things that are actually happening that you said, oh, it's just fear-mongering, don't worry about it. Tell those to the women who have, tell that to people who are paying taxes into this country, waiting on their citizenship paperwork, but they're still technically undocumented, so they're going to get ripped away from their families. Tell that to parents who have teenagers who are transgender, who can no longer get the help that they need. You are scared about false narratives. We're scared about things that are actively happening in real time. It is not the same. But congratulations for voting for higher taxes for yourself and anyone who makes under $400,000. And thank you for raising the prices of groceries and the cost of goods, because you also voted for tariffs that we will have to pay for. Hope you enjoy it.
Gulf of America. Yeah, that's where we're at. The Gulf of America. It's not the Gulf of Mexico. Not the same thing it's been called for the last several hundred years. No, apparently we own it. And so why don't we get to name it? Look, Mr. President, we own the first 12 nautical miles. It's hundreds of miles across the Gulf, no matter which way you measure it. Most of that stuff is not ours. And if you were any other person, any other politician, I would absolutely not believe that you didn't know that. But having had you as president before, oh my goodness, have we gotten to know you? And it might just be true. You just might be that dumb. And I think this is why you want so badly for us to do things like get rid of the Department of Education. Because if we stop learning, maybe more of us will believe your bullshit. It is ridiculous that you got reelected after having done such a piss poor job of running the country for 4 years. We have never been in this situation before, where we had literally a criminal who was in the midst of being sentenced. Between being convicted and being sentenced, we voted for this leader to be our new leader. I don't get it. He is so dumb that he doesn't understand how big the ocean is. He just said today publicly in a press conference that the 625 million square acres of water that Biden blocked off from being drilled for oil was pretty much all of the ocean. He has no clue that there are literally a couple 100 billion acres of ocean. He just doesn't know. He is that uneducated. He is that stupid. He just lets things come into his mind and says them. And now we get to deal with, I might send troops into Panama. I might send troops into Greenland. And we're in talks to take over Canada as the 51st state. Dude, do you have any idea how big Canada is? Bro, he just doesn't know. He doesn't know because he has always lived with a silver spoon in his mouth. And we elected him again. It's going to be a very interesting 4 years. Whether it's here or another platform, I think I'm going to be talking about it because I think there's going to be a lot to talk about. So far, he hasn't even taken office, and I've got weeks worth of material. I think we'll survive it. Most of us. But it's going to be a wild ride. Yeah. Stay safe out there, guys. And find a way to have a good one.
I had a woman come up to me today and she goes, I'm really starting to regret my vote. I really am. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, somebody has seen the light. They've realized all of the things that they voted for and how awful they are. And, you know, she's really feeling, you know, the weight of her mistake. Lord help me. She goes, actually, you know what, first of all, I'm standing there like this. Be honest, does it look like I want to hear your whole life story? Because I thought I was doing it right. I thought I looked like, please don't talk to me. Not interested. Whatever you've got to sell, I don't want it. But apparently I look like, oh my gosh, tell me all about it. Where'd your mama go to school? I don't care. Why do these people talk to me? Anyway, listen. She goes, have you heard of RFK Jr.? I was like, yeah, I know who the man is. What about him? She goes, well, I heard that he wants to take away Ozempic. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, is this woman really about to tell me that she regrets voting for him because she is mad that she won't be able to get her Ozempic anymore? For real? And she goes, yeah, I just, the only reason that I've been able to get this skinny is because I was able to get on Ozempic. And I'm like, okay, all right. I think I've reached my limit. Anyway, and she goes, yeah, no, I don't know. Maybe next he'll go after like our Mountain Dew or our Diet Coke. And I don't know what I'll do if I can't have one of those. I said, ma'am, I'm really happy for you that you found something to help you lose the weight that you wanted to lose and that you feel good about yourself. But let me tell you why I just don't care. I just don't care. I said, I'm concerned about my friends and the people in this country who don't look like you or I. I'm concerned about me and the women in my life and in this country who are concerned that they might lose the rights to their own body and making choices for themselves. I'm concerned about my gay friends and my trans friends. I'm concerned about a list of things that you don't even understand. I'm concerned about real life issues. I'm concerned about people losing health insurance. I'm not concerned about whether or not you get to continue to lose weight or whether or not you get to have your Diet Mountain Dew or Diet Coke every day. I don't care. I don't care. And she's like, oh my gosh, you're being really rude. And I'm not saying that I'm not worried about those things too. And I said, if you were worried about those things, you wouldn't have voted for that man in the first place. And she said, well, I didn't even know that those were concerns. And I said, and there's the problem right there. Sorry you couldn't educate yourself on the things that he was running on. It wasn't a secret. And she goes, oh my gosh, you're being really rude. And I said, you know what, I am, and I'm not sorry about it because I've had enough. I've had enough. I do not care about you. I do not care whether or not you get to continue to lose your weight. I do not care. And she goes, oh my gosh, who raised you? And I just said, I started to walk away. And then I turned around and I said, you know what? I hope you gain every bit of weight you've lost back. And I hope you gain about 100 pounds for every year that man's in office. Because you deserve that. And she goes, she just stood there like that. I don't care. Get wrecked.
We live in very interesting times. It isn't very often that you see the demands of an oligarchy that literally purchased a political party in the United States of America crash up against the strategy for election of that party itself. Anytime the subject of race comes up in a debate on social media, it won't be long before you see a Republican make a comment similar to, wasn't it the Democrats that supported slavery? Wasn't it the Democrats that unalived Lincoln? Wasn't it the Democrats that put in place the Jim Crow laws of the South? And the answer to all those questions is yes. However, it leaves out one big factor, and that's the Southern strategy. Very few Republicans know what the Southern strategy is, and even fewer are willing to apologize for it. But just a decade ago, that's exactly what the Republican Party did. It apologized for the Southern strategy, the strategy that turned reliable Democratic states in the South into Republican strongholds. Put quite simply, the Southern strategy is this: play on the racist tendencies of Southern Americans in order to get them to move over to the Republican Party from the Democratic Party, as the Democratic Party became more and more the voice of civil rights in the United States of America. It started with Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan put it on steroids, and it's still continuing today. In the beginning, it reared its head with arguments like, hey, look at all of these unqualified African Americans who are taking the jobs of hardworking white people. And today it simply takes another form. Hey, Look at all of these brown people coming across the border illegally that are taking the jobs of hardworking white and black Americans. It manifested itself in some of the most racist political commercials that we've ever seen. First, when George W. Bush Sr. ran against Michael Dukakis, he put the infamous Willie Horton ads on the air. Willie Horton was an inmate in state prison who had been released on furlough and had done some really awful things, including rape and murder. So George W. Bush Sr. ran an ad on TV with a picture of this black inmate, Willie Horton, and linked it to Michael Dukakis. Michael Dukakis had no such policies in place. He wasn't responsible for the furlough of Willie Horton. There was nothing that he had done that caused what Willie Horton did to happen. But that wasn't the purpose of the ad. The purpose of the ad was to scare white suburbanites into believing that if they elected a Democratic president, then this could happen to them, in the safety of their homes, in the suburbs of this country. It also manifested itself in the jobs arena, when Jesse Helms, running for re-election in North Carolina, ran an ad of just a single white hand crumpling up a job rejection letter. And then an ominous voiceover comes onto the ad and says, "Look at another white person losing their job because of an unqualified black candidate getting the job instead." And the purpose was quite clear once again. If you elect a Democratic president, there'll be more policies that place unqualified black men and women in the jobs that white people deserve. Hell, Republicans have even used the strategy against each other. When George Bush Jr. ran against John McCain in the Republican primary, somebody ran a robocall insinuating that John McCain had an illegitimate black child. Now, it just so happened that John McCain had done what a lot of wonderful people do, and that is he had adopted a child from another country with a different ethnic background. But it didn't matter, because the Southern strategy works. And if George Bush's campaign had to lie to get George Bush Jr. elected, then that's what they would do. And now it continues today. Even though the crime rate among illegal immigrants is much lower than the regular crime rate in the United States, it's easy to throw up an ad saying that these brown men are coming here to unalive and do worse to our women, and white men line up in sync and go to the polls to vote Republican. But something really interesting has happened with the Southern strategy. Whenever the Republicans were making brown people the boogeyman, saying that they were coming across the border to hurt our white women, it was easy for them to do that when the only people that were going to be impacted by deportations were farmers, ranches, the construction industry, and agriculture in general. But now that they've put this racism on steroids, big tech could suffer the consequences. And big tech spent a lot of money to buy the Republican Party and the presidency in this last election. And they're saying no, no, no. So now you have the oligarchy that bought the Republican Party going to war with the racists who run the Republican Party. And the outcome is going to determine worker policy and how effective the United States is in the tech arena in the years to come. I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know this. At some point, Americans need to understand that the racist policies and approaches of the Republican Party, the Southern strategy, and the results that it garnered in this country have been bad for America. And there's something else I know as well. Farmers and ranchers and people in the construction industry and agriculture, you need to become aware that this party, the Republican Party, is not out to help you. They're out to take advantage of your worst tendencies, to get your vote for them in any election where they can get it. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If we deport all of the undocumented workers in this country, it would mean that 50% of the workers in the agricultural industry would go away. And that, as all the studies have shown, could drive up food prices as much as 2,000 to 3,000%. And the same holds true for the construction industry as well. It could mean that housing prices go up by as much as 300%. I guess I can safely assume that farmers and ranchers and people in the construction industry are okay with the oligarchy getting their way and getting the workers they need to make commerce work in their segment. But we're just supposed to smile and take it. It's time we start voting for our best interest. Let the oligarchs have the Republican Party. We've got another party out there that's been fighting for us since the beginning, and we can't let the culture war stand in the way of us supporting that party, the Democratic Party. Have a great day.
Pittsburgh area steelworkers are extremely upset with Donald Trump for his...
This is the find out phase, Pookies. Y'all spoke at his rallies. You voted for him. Where's Francesca and her I never thought the lepers would eat my face song? As one of my mutuals said about every blue-collar person in America who voted for the Cheeto, every working-class person in America who voted for the Cheeto, and is now finding out that their job is threatened, industry they work in is about to be struggling real hard, thoughts and tariffs. Thoughts and tariffs. Okay, I'm getting ready to go for a walk before the sun starts dipping and it gets too cold outside. But I wanted to take a second and reply to this comment. On my video where I'm stitching Aaron Parnas and he's talking about these Pittsburgh steelworkers that are experiencing the find out of FAFO, they're really upset that the Cheeto that they voted for is going to do the things he said he was going to do. Slap on tariffs, start a trade war, hurt every working class person in America, hurt the steel industry. And in my comments, folks are saying like, oh, I'm so sad that people will have to, bear the burden and suffer as a result of so much of America voting for the Cheeto. And this person says, all I can do is help everyone I can, but not maggots. They can suffer. My immediate response is, well, maggots are facing the consequences of their actions. Unfortunately, we have to face the consequences of their actions too. But hopefully we can all lean on each other and support each other and mitigate that burden a little bit. But the maggots, they can suffer. And I was thinking about how this relates to parenting, good parenting, non-punitive parenting, that is also non-permissive parenting. We call this natural consequences, where you don't jump in to rescue your child from feeling the discomfort of them making a choice that is less than optimal or is actively harmful. Rescuing kids from feeling and facing the consequences of their own actions is depriving them of the experience of failure, how that shapes their thinking and molds their choices going forward in the future. And so I really think this is what we need to do with Trumpers. Let them experience the natural consequences, because otherwise they have no hope of learning from failure if we or whoever else in their lives rescues them from feeling all of the discomfort and the burden, the weight of the consequences of their choice to vote against the safety and well-being of every working class person in America because they were foolish enough to believe a liar, a 34-time convicted felon, when he said, trust me, you guys can trust me. They believed a man who has spent his entire career being a con artist and a liar because they thought they were going to get cheaper eggs and watch their brown neighbors get deported. So no, they need to face the natural consequences of their actions. And maybe, I have a small sliver of a hope that they'll learn a lesson from that. Okay, you want to prioritize shopping hyper-local, boosting your local economy, because we know that building strong, robust local communities is one step toward resilience. One big, important step. So you want to make active choices to shop local. But what do you do if the owners of those shops are active, Cheeto supporters? This is a really good question, and I know I am in a position of privilege living in Portland, Oregon, where it's much easier to shop locally and know that the businesses you are supporting support your ethics, values, and their politics are not undermining the safety and well-being of every person in America. If you step outside of Portland, the other day, a friend who lives down in Eugene was messaging with me, and they were saying that everywhere you look, it's Trumpers. And that's a college town in Oregon. And I don't necessarily have a perfect answer to this because we're going to have to build bridges with folks in our community, even if we have